This is a hospital, not a military museum. If you're gonna walk in with that thing dangling, you might as well head straight to orthopedics." The words sliced through the lobby like a scalpel. The security guard didn't raise his voice, "Mum," but it carried, just enough for half a dozen people in line to turn their heads. A few chuckled. One woman sighed and looked away. The man standing at the entrance didn't respond. His left arm was a visible prosthetic, metallic, jointed, worn but clean. Hanging from it was a small circular tag. Faded letters etched into the metal spelled out one name, Ranger. The guard pointed at it. "Seriously, that's going to draw more attention than someone on a stretcher." The veteran didn't move. Only the thumb of his real hand shifted slightly, adjusting the strap across his shoulder. Behind him, the lobby continued its routine noise. Distant intercoms, soft beeps, rolling wheels. But the silence around him had changed. "If you believe this man deserves better, type respect below." He had come for a copy of a discharge summary, that's all. The walk from the parking lot had already been enough. 3 blocks, 2 elevators, and the weight of a prosthetic that never truly fit. He didn't complain. He never did. But now he stood on the edge of the reception line, body still, head slightly bowed as if bracing for another battle. The security guard clicked his tongue. "You can't just waltz in here with a metal limb and some dog metal like it's supposed to mean something. Policy's policy." A few heads turned. No one spoke. A woman in scrubs tapped her tablet. A man in a wheelchair glanced up, then quickly looked away. The veteran's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed even. "It's not a medal, it's a tag. He was my service dog." The guard scoffed. "Figures. One of those PTSD pets?" "What, they give you a sticker too?" There was a pause. Not in sound, but in spirit. Like the room itself held its breath. The veteran slowly reached into his pocket and produced a folded slip of paper. An appointment card. He handed it over, wordless. The guard didn't even glance at it. "Whatever. Wait over there, not inside. We've got immunocompromised patients and you've got hardware." The man turned, walked a few steps back toward the benches lining the outer wall. His boots moved quietly across the linoleum. Not heavy, not rushed, just resigned. He sat without a word, adjusting the strap of the prosthetic so the tag wouldn't swing so visibly. Still, it gleamed. A small disk of memory too stubborn to dull. Inside the hospital, life continued. A child cried in pediatrics. Someone coughed behind a closed door. An intercom page asked for assistance in Trauma Bay 2. But out here, silence settled over the veteran, not the kind born of comfort. The kind that comes after being told once again that your scars are too loud for polite spaces. The bench outside the entrance wasn't meant for waiting. It tilted slightly, one of the legs uneven on the concrete. The metal was cold even through his jeans, but he sat without complaint. Inside, just beyond the glass doors, the security guard leaned over the desk, talking to another staff member. He gestured toward the bench and said something the veteran couldn't hear, but he saw the smirk. And the shrug. 2 nurses walked past the entrance. One looked in his direction, paused for a breath, then continued without speaking. Another man, perhaps a visitor, glanced at the veteran's arm, then at the dog tag, and then just moved on. The tag caught a glint of sunlight through the glass. It spun slightly as the breeze caught it. "Ranger," it read. On the back, in smaller letters, K9, Afghanistan, 2010-2018. Inside, the security guard's voice broke through the noise. "We've got a situation out front, metal arm guy. I already told him to wait outside." Someone responded, too quiet to make out. The guard laughed. The veteran didn't flinch. He looked down at his boots. Same pair he wore to Arlington. He reached up with his right hand and steadied the tag against his chest. Not to hide it, just to still it. That movement, simple as it was, caught the attention of a boy sitting in a nearby wheelchair, maybe 10 years old. The boy stared openly, eyes wide, lips slightly parted. His mother touched his shoulder and whispered something. The boy nodded and turned away. Back inside, a patient approached the front desk with a clipboard. She gestured toward the bench. "Is he supposed to be out there?" The security guard looked over his shoulder. Just following hospital protocol. Can't let unverified metal limbs in before they're cleared. The woman frowned but said nothing else. The sliding doors opened briefly as someone exited. The veteran didn't look up. But from inside, a young hospital volunteer hovered, watching. Maybe 19, holding a tablet, watching the man, watching the guard, doing nothing. That was the part that always stung the most. Not the words, not the stares. Not even the way the prosthetic made every movement feel mechanical and slow. It was the silence. The way decent people let indecent things happen. Softly, passively, politely. The tag brushed against his shirt again. A subtle chime of metal on fabric. Behind the reception area, a young nurse paused, listening. She walked toward the exit, hesitated, then stepped back. Her eyes were troubled, but her feet did not move forward. Back at the bench, the veteran shifted his weight. The prosthetic clicked faintly as he settled into a new position. He rubbed his real hand along his pant leg, feeling the wear in the fabric, the stiffness in his hip. No one came. No one spoke. But someone, somewhere, raised a phone. A small, quiet click marked the beginning of a recording. Not dramatic, not confrontational, just a silent act of witness. And the veteran kept waiting. The corridor near the ER had grown louder, a shuffle of gurneys, voices over intercoms, and the occasional sharp bark of a monitor. Just beyond the security checkpoint, a young nurse struggled to steer a wheelchair around a misplaced cart. "Can someone move this?" she called. No one responded. The wheelchair's occupant, a frail elderly man, eyes wide with panic, clutched the armrests. His legs were bound in soft braces. One of the wheels caught on a crack in the floor and locked at an angle. The nurse pushed again, harder. Nothing. Her hands shook. Then the veteran stood. He moved slowly, not because he was weak, but because sudden strength was no longer something he gave away lightly. No one asked him to help. No one noticed as he stepped off the bench, crossed the threshold, and approached the chair. The nurse looked up, startled. "Sir, you can't—" "I'm not inside," he said softly. "Just beside." With one real hand and one mechanical, he took hold of the back handles. His prosthetic whirred faintly as he adjusted grip. He angled the chair slightly and gently lifted the stuck wheel over the edge of the crack. It took 5 seconds. No show, no effort to be seen, no anger, just precision. The patient let out a breath, a soft one. His knuckles loosened on the armrests. The nurse stared. "How?" He nodded once. "Try again, slowly." She did. The chair rolled forward, steady, controlled. He stepped back, letting go without a word. The dog tag on his arm swung again, briefly tapping the wheel he had freed. The nurse blinked, still watching him. "Thank you," she said, her voice quiet. He didn't reply, just turned and walked back toward the bench. From the hallway, someone had seen it. The hospital volunteer, still holding his tablet, still silent. But now, recording. No one clapped, no one cheered. But the boy in the wheelchair, the same one who had looked at him earlier, now turned fully in his seat. His mother, noticing, whispered something again. The boy didn't look away this time. The security guard, oblivious, continued his conversation at the desk. Something about lunch breaks and difficult guests. He laughed at his own joke. The veteran sat back down. Same bench, same tilt, same chill in the metal. But something had changed. Not in the air, not yet, but in the undercurrent of eyes that had stopped pretending not to see. And still, the veteran said nothing. Dr. Alan Greaves was not a man who moved quickly, not because of age, but because he had long since learned the weight of measured steps. Retired Major General, former trauma surgeon in field hospitals from Fallujah to Kandahar, and now a quiet presence in the veteran support clinic attached to the hospital. He didn't wear medals, but he still wore the posture. He had just finished a morning consult when a junior nurse knocked gently on his door. "Sir, there's something you might want to see." She offered a phone, already cued to a short video. He watched. The clip showed a man with a prosthetic arm calmly adjusting a wheelchair, helping a nurse, saying nothing, then walking away. Greaves looked closer. His eyes narrowed, not in suspicion but in recognition. "Is that who I think it is?" he asked softly. "I don't know his name," the nurse said, but the guard made him wait outside. Something about metal limbs. The general's jaw tightened. He handed the phone back and stood. Downstairs, the lobby hadn't changed. The guard was still behind the desk, sipping from a coffee cup and scrolling his phone. The veteran still sat on the bench. The tag still swung from the prosthetic. Greaves stepped forward with quiet purpose. "Excuse me," he said to the receptionist. "I need a word with the gentleman out front, and with your security detail, now." The woman blinked. Yes, sir." She pressed a button under the desk. A tone sounded near the doorway. The guard looked up. "Yeah?" Greaves didn't raise his voice. "Please come stand with me. This won't take long." The guard approached, clearly confused. "Something wrong?" "Quite a few things," the general said, his tone still even. "Let's correct one of them now." He turned toward the veteran on the bench. "Sir," Greaves said, "would you join us for a moment?" The veteran stood slowly, eyes cautious. "Yes, sir." Greaves looked at the guard. "This man is Sergeant Michael Shaw. I served with him, not in the same unit, but close enough to know what that arm cost. And I recognize that tag. Ranger was more than a dog. He was part of our system, saved lives in Helmand during Operation Iron Spear." The guard shifted uncomfortably. I didn't know." "No, you didn't, but you spoke anyway." Loudly, publicly, with disrespect. Greaves took a breath, then turned to the staff now gathering nearby. Nurses, volunteers, a few patients. "You don't need stripes on your shoulders to understand dignity," he said. "But if you wear a badge or a coat or scrubs with this hospital's name on it, you carry the responsibility to recognize it." He turned to the guard again. "You owe this man an apology." "I'm sorry," the guard muttered, eyes low. Greaves didn't move. "Try again, with the same volume you used to mock him." The guard swallowed hard, then looked at the veteran. "I'm sorry, sir. I was out of line." Sergeant Shaw nodded once. Nothing more. Greaves turned to the head nurse, who had arrived quietly. "I recommend suspension and mandatory training. And one more thing, that tag and what it stands for, they deserve a place in our Hall of Honor." She nodded. "Absolutely." Greaves turned back to Shaw. "We'll get this right." The hallway fell silent, not with shame, but with something deeper. Recognition. It took 3 days. On the morning of the 4th, Sergeant Michael Shaw returned. Not for a complaint, not for recognition. Just to see something with his own eyes. The Hall of Honor wasn't large, just a corner near the central corridor, next to a waiting area with soft chairs and a single, slow-turning ceiling fan. The hospital had reserved the wall for those who had served, employees, patients, volunteers, and now, one more name. Mounted in the center was a shadow box. Inside, a miniature replica of a prosthetic arm cast in lightweight resin resting gently on navy blue velvet. Next to it, the real dog tag. "Ranger," it read. The surface had been cleaned, but the scratches remained, intentionally. Below the display, a brass plaque bore an inscription: "Not all steel wounds. Some carries silence. Some saves lives. General A. Greaves, Reed Ashen." Michael stood before it, hands in his pockets. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. But something in his shoulders shifted, just slightly. Behind him, staff moved respectfully around the hallway. The same volunteer from earlier passed by and nodded. The young nurse who had shown the video stood a few steps away, watching without intrusion. And at the end of the corridor near the elevator, the boy in the wheelchair sat again, this time with his father. He pointed to the display. "That's the man," he whispered. Michael turned slightly. Their eyes met. The boy raised his hand, not in a wave, but in a quiet gesture of recognition, the kind soldiers use in places where words are too loud. Michael nodded back. Then, with slow steps, he approached the display. He reached up not to touch the tag but the glass, just the glass, laying his fingers gently on its surface. He stood there for a long moment. No camera, no music, no applause, just breath and light and metal. Behind him, the hallway held still, not out of obligation but out of understanding. For once, no one asked him what happened to his arm. They didn't need to, and he didn't need to explain. If this story moved you, type respect in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Thank you for being here.